Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I am Tim Wild and Ashley is here. And I took a shower, Ashley. I was in the shower. I got out of the shower and my hair was crazy. And I said to myself, I'm not going to put on a hat and I'm not going to dry my hair. I'm just going to spray it and let it be crazy because we're talking about what movie? Oh, I missed that. Say it again.
Cruella.
Oh, you're so high pitched. The microphone's like, that's too much for me. Cruella de Vil. Before we get into this movie, it's a live action movie. It came out about a week ago. We've had to keep rescheduling our videos, and Josh was supposed to be on here tonight, and then he had something come up, and so it's like, hey, we're running through with this because by now, anyone that wanted to see it over Memorial Day's weekend saw it. Anyone that didn't want to see it, I don't think we're going to be changing any votes tonight. But if you want to know what we thought about it, because we all know I have strong opinions about Disney villainesses, we're going to give it to you. We're going to give you a recommendation. We didn't get Josh's recommendation. We would have done that, but it was very last minute that he bailed on us. But it's okay. We have the brightest and the smiliest co-hostess of the mostest. That's Beetlejuice. Can't say that. Okay. Anyway, here. And so before we give you our spoiler discussion, we're going to give you up front our spoil-free discussion about the spoiled Cruella and give our overall thoughts, and or at least mine and Ashley's, and then we're going to give you our rating if we're on the same page. We haven't compared notes at all, although I did have notes. I took notes. You can't read it because I write my notes in the dark in the theater. Tim, how can you pay attention to the movie when you're writing notes in the dark? Shut up, I can. And we'll tell you our rating and then move right into spoilers. So, Ashley, as I catch a breath, just kidding, I'm fine. What were your overall thoughts before we start talking about the movie? I just want to know, how do you feel about Cruella in general as a villainess? 101 Dalmatians, very quick, not a movie review, but just, is she one of your favorites or what?
I like her. She's not one of my favorite villains, but she's like my number 3, I think.
How is she not one of your favorite if she's your number 3?
Because my number 2 are so high.
Well, 1 and 2 is crazy out there, and then she's like the top.
Up there, and then, right. Wow. So my 1 and 2 are crazy up there. Maleficent and Ursula. They're my villain.
Ursula?
And I love Ursula. The song and everything. I sing those all the time. Anyway. And so Cruella's there. I really do like her, but she's just so low between my top 2. So
what do you like about her? I'm just curious.
I always just loved her sassiness and how she, she acted. You could tell when you watch 101 Dalmatians, she had this connection to Anita. And her just attitude of darling and all that. I just loved it. I loved it. And I never knew that she was smoking a cigarette, I just thought it was this weird stick, It's what is that? Anyway, yeah.
I don't know what she's doing, but she does it all the time.
Right. I was okay. But yeah, I just liked her a lot, her craziness. And I always thought the hair was really cool. The salt and pepper hair.
That's exactly why I left my hair like this, because I said this is what you get, and I wore a white shirt on purpose, and now I'm being blinded because I have not played with the temperatures of this new light on my. I'm trying to look up something specific about what you were just talking about, but dang it, can't find it. Where is that? Shoot.
But yeah, I loved her. And she's on, but I will say this, when you go to Disneyland and they have the villains walking around, Cruella is my favorite villain that walks around.
For the hair, that's what I was going to say. I left my hair crazy.
She's hilarious. The actors they have play her in the park, she does the pen thing and everything, and it's
waves her hand like this with the pen. Okay. Fair enough.
Man. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to find my I did a movie review. Oh no, I didn't. I did a top 10 list on a blog 12, 13, 14 years ago.
Oh my God.
And in that I did my top 10 Disney villainesses, and I was going to pull up my reasoning why Cruella was on my list to tell you what I thought. But I can't find it, and it's Yeah, doesn't matter. Let me just say, I don't like Cruella. I wasn't really looking forward to this movie, and after I saw the first trailer, I thought it was like a spy movie. I was like, why are we making her some spy or something? I thought it was like, this is ridiculous. It's way too much. You're trying to write too much for the background of a character. Not like Maleficent. At least she's in a fantasy world where you give her some. You sure already have like magic and stuff. It's a different world. We want to try to understand that. This was like, hey, this is a human being in London trying to kill some dogs. We don't need to make her a spy. But it wasn't. It was a heist movie, which I was very surprised by. But Cruella, as much as I didn't like her, she scared the crap out of me, Ashley. I was horrified as a kid of Cruella because, like Pinocchio, this movie is all about kidnapping. I hate Pinocchio for that. Every scene in Pinocchio is about kidnapping, and this one it's all about dog napping, but you bring the dogs in and you fall in love with them. They have great voice acting, and there's like personalities and stuff that they're little kids essentially being kidnapped and hostages. And I'm like, that's horrible. And that was my biggest fear as a kid was kidnapping. I was terrified of it. Young kid in the 80s. But anyway, that's why Cruella, even though I didn't really like her, she was obnoxious and whatever. At least she was horrifying. That last scene and when she's driving, bloodshot eyes and all crazy and everything, doesn't get more intense than that in a Disney cartoon. And so we move into this. I'm like, all right, I love Emma Stone, but I don't need her to be some magic jewel thief or whatever I thought she was going to be from seeing the trailer once. I only watched trailers once, remember, Ashley? It wasn't. Overall thoughts. I thought it was really good. I was blown away by how much I liked it. What about you?
I really, really liked it. I was stoked about it. I was happy. It's worth it.
Did you go into it thinking you were going to like it?
I did, because again, I liked Cruella, but again, I didn't want to like set my,
standards too high. Expectation.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't want to put my expectations too high, but I was like, I like Emma Stone. I love Emma Thompson, so I was like, she played the villainess.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm really looking forward to this, but I'm going to have an open mind because I know nothing about her, origin story or anything. So I was like, this will be great. This will be fun. And so I just went in and I loved it.
Right. Well, as much as I love the movie, it was really funny. The cinematography and stuff was really fun. The fashion. I can't wait for this to be nominated for the costume design in the Oscars. If it doesn't win, I'll be blown away by whatever other movie does win. If this movie doesn't win in the costume design, then it's not like something compared to like Lord of the Rings or something crazy and epic like that. I don't see anything else that's coming out that would be compared, but it's all political if this doesn't win costume design, because it was amazing and such a huge variety of different styles and everything as it went through kind of the eras. Even it starts off with young Cruella, even her hairstyle and stuff like that when she was really young. It was so cool to see the transitions and everything with her attitude and her transitioning. I don't want to spoil anything about stuff, but like there was a lot of tone differences throughout the story with her. That a lot of that stuff came out with the attitude and what she was experiencing in the story. I love that. I loved how detailed that was. The fashion was amazing. Cinematography was amazing. The music, I just say, I don't have a lot to get into. The soundtrack is amazing. It's incredible. Great choices to go with each sequence that you have songs. There's a lot of montages, and the music, the songs that they picked go right in there. And as I told my friends on the way home, I was like, I don't like this song. I don't like this music. This isn't like easy or casual listening for me, like recreational listening. I wouldn't buy this soundtrack and put it in. But for the movie soundtrack, it's flawless. I love it. What are you going to say about that?
I'm going to say, I love this soundtrack. Every song, I was like, oh, I like this song. Do I have this song? And do I have this song? Like all of them. I was like, oh my gosh, I should just get the soundtrack. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend was like, oh my gosh, like any movie that plays, was it Doris Day? It was Doris Day. Like any movie that plays Doris Day is like, it's a great soundtrack. I'm like, yeah, I would never listen to any of the songs in this movie. And I know I'll get brutally, attacked for this, especially if Josh was here, I would get massacred. But it's great music, just not my taste, not what I listen to.
It's not your scene. It's fine.
Yeah. But for the movie, that's not what you're going for. It's awesome. Music was great. Cinematography, costumes, the character. I love the characters. It's a really great movie. I don't see this as a good live adaptation. Okay, that's all I'll say before we give our final judgments on it. Because, Ashley, this is my thoughts. You can't go from this movie and go into 101 Dalmatians, the cartoon. If you go with this movie and the characters are too different from the way they are in 101 Dalmatians, that is kind of a big jump. And we'll talk about more about that specifically in spoilers. I'll just say that, like, my big problem with Maleficent was that they tried to build up this background for why Maleficent was the way she was, and then they changed the way she was. This one, she was pretty close, but there's a lot of differences in the way she ends in this movie and the way 101 Dalmatians is. And and we'll talk more about that in spoilers, but it didn't feel like a contrast into that movie, which it doesn't need to be. But I'll just say this, it's not like a prequel, and I don't want to see a sequel to this movie. The only reason, as much as it would be awesome, and I would love to watch Emma Stone play this character more, but I don't want a sequel of 101 Dalmatians, because anything you do in that story, without giving any spoilers, is going to be completely anticlimactic to how big this adventure is for the character. And it's her whole life. It's her childhood and going into everything. It's her background and how she becomes the villain that she is. With all of that buildup and this story being such a big story, and if you saw the movie, you understand what I'm talking about. Going into like a heist to like kidnap a bunch of dogs to make one coat, I'm like, that's not going to be a big enough adventure compared to this. You want to build up. What are you going to say?
No, so I kind of see what you're saying, but I also feel that there is a lot of time that passes, because she's 18 in the movie. Like, at the end of the movie, she's 18.
True.
And like, when you watch 101 Dalmatians, I get like the feeling that she's like 45. You know?
Well, yeah.
Right. So it's like,
if they did a sequel with Emma Stone, she'd be like 30.
Right. I'm just saying, it's like, I feel that there's a lot of time that passes, and because she does have, it's obvious, she has like a mental disorder, that it just escalates, and so it takes her to that point where she would kidnap 101 dogs to make a coat.
Right, but that's a story about that, a dog napping, compared to this story would be such like a smaller journey, a smaller adventure. That's all I'm saying. As much as it'd be like horrible. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It'd be like, if you watch that and then 101 Dalmatians, you're like, okay, well, And that's the other thing. It's a woman with massive resources. Why is she chasing down this specific like family of dogs in 101 Dalmatians when she's finding them in London? She has plenty of money, and that there's that many dogs in London that she has to go for these specific ones and kidnap this one family. It's like it doesn't work for me in today's, especially modernizing it like they did. Go ahead.
I feel it. Well, like, we can't give spoilers right now, right?
No.
Okay, so
Nope.
It's gotta wait. Yeah, it's gotta wait.
So, other than it not being I don't want to see it build up into 101 Dalmatians. Don't go watch this and then go watch the Glenn Close version or whatever. It's Glenn Close, right? The one that you like?
Yeah. No, I've never seen that.
I thought that was one of your top 7. Wasn't that one of your top 7?
Do you remember?
Okay.
No,
anyway.
I haven't seen that one. But yeah.
Okay, so I saw it in the theater when it came out. It was fun. The fashion, the costume stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm just saying, not a live adaptation of the cartoon that you like, if you like it. And I just don't want to see a sequel because I don't see how they can make it a good, big story compared to this. But very, very good movie in and of itself. Wonderful performance, great costumes, great character design, great soundtrack, great everything. So we're not going to rate it, but we're going to give it a final judgment. Ashley, would you recommend this to be a celestial, terrestrial, or telestial? Celestial meaning gather your family and go pay the $80 or whatever to take them to the theater to watch it. Terrestrial, just buy it for $20 to watch it on Disney Plus. Telestial, wait for it to be free in 6 months.
So my personal opinion is a celestial. If I could have gone to the theater to see this, I would have loved it. I actually just, paid the $30 on Disney Plus because of just my son. I didn't have anyone to watch him, like a whole bunch of things. There was a whole bunch of aspects to it. But I would have loved to have seen this in theater. I would have loved it. So, yeah.
Celestial. I'm going to go celestial as well. I don't think it's like a big, you have to see this in the theater, like when we saw Kong versus Godzilla or whatever that movie was, or like a big Marvel movie or something. It's not like there's these big, amazing visuals and sound effects and battle action, all this stuff that you want to be like in the middle of. But I think that the costuming, the cinematography, and the music is so effective and so well done to really appreciate it and also give props to them for that hard work. I think it deserves to be seen on the big screen. I think you could enjoy the story just fine at home, but I don't think you're going to get as into all of those things that in the craft of filmmaking that it accomplished, which was a lot, which blew me away because I was not overwhelmed from the trailer. I was like, I don't care about this movie. But when you see it in the theater, I think it's a very enveloping, I say it that way, experience. Yeah, I think you're in there and you feel with her. There's a lot of emotion in this story too. And I think all that impact from the music, the montages are just awesome. So I think Celestial, go see this in the theater if you have the option, if you haven't already. Even if you saw it at home, go watch it again in the theater. I think it deserves it. It deserves your money. I think it was just. You agree? Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Final judgment. Celestial. Go watch it on the big screen. Now we're going to go into spoilers, but if you want to cut this off now, go to the theater, then come back and watch the rest of it. But we're going to dive into spoilers, and I do want, Ashley, we were talking about most of it. We can kind of move through some of this a little quicker, but I want to talk about the normal 5 categories that we do. We already talked about score and soundtrack, the music.
Yeah.
I don't have specifics, and I didn't write down which songs and stuff, but in the spoilers section, we can talk about whatever we want. The montages, especially, whenever they played a song, I don't know if you picked up on this, they played like almost the whole song. It wasn't just like a chorus and a verse, and then moved right to the next sequence. It was like a full, like a 2 or 3 minute song, and and it was good, and you didn't feel like it was dragging from those moments. I do have concerns about the runtime of this movie. We'll talk about that when we get to plot and story. But the music I thought was really fun because they did play a lot of music, a lot of variety of songs, and you can pull up the soundtrack if you want to. Not you, I mean our audience. But because we're not gonna sit here and go through it. Because if you told me the names of the songs, I wouldn't remember. But if you played the song, I'm like, oh yeah, that song. Anyway, I thought it was really well done. The cinematography. Did you have anything else about the music or anything?
No. I loved it. I want the soundtrack. I just, that's
you want it?
I do. I think I have a wide variety of like music that I like, and that was just, the 70s and 60s are definitely my thing. I like.
It was a very dated or very era or period. It was. And that's the thing, that all that music, I appreciate it more than I like it. That's where I'm at with that soundtrack. But it's a great soundtrack, great movie soundtrack where it's applicable songs that are fun. The tone of the songs go with every scene that they're played. The cinematography, the only thing I'm going to mention is there's a couple of really good shots that I really loved. One of them was at the end when she drove to the fountain after she was like, I'm Cruella, the I am Cruella speech when she went to the fountain and said goodbye to her mom, basically. That was all one long shot without a cut of that whole speech. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, she got off her bike and talked to the fountain where her mom, where she talked to her mom, and had that powerful moment where she went through a variety of, in the dialogue, her ups and downs and like her sympathy and her affection, her frustration, and then at the end, the I love you moment and the I am Cruella embracing who she is and saying goodbye to, what was her other her name? Estella. Saying goodbye to her, but I still love you. Like all that emotion, the back and forth, and the performance and the expression that she did, and was so great. All one take. Beautifully done.
That monologue was amazing. Yeah.
It was really good. I love that shot. A lot of the montages were really awesome. How they did the headlines showing up, fading and dissolving in and out of when she would appear and bomb in on the Baroness's fashion shows or arrivals or the red carpet meetings and stuff like that. She would just appear strike a pose and then bail.
Yeah.
All those were really cool. And sometimes you didn't know what was going on, like when they walked up to her car and like threw the tape underneath and threw it back over, and they like winched her in, and she was like trapped. And then Cruella comes out, strikes her pose. Everyone's taking all the pictures, and you can see very carefully through her arm or whatever, the Baroness in the car trying to look out and stuff, like getting buried in the attention and not getting anything. Like a lot of shots like that were very clever how they did it. The driving sequences when she was in the car chase and when she stole that fancy car just like the one she had in the movie. I love it because they had a lot of camera angles right up in her face, and she's all crouched over just like in the movie. Did you notice that? And they're showing the footage on the street, like on tire level, when she's going around curves and stuff, just like when you're seeing her car falling apart and turning into the dragster in the cartoon. And you're not like, you're supposed to believe like this is her car, and she establishes that she doesn't know how to drive. Which, when you watch 101 Dalmatians, you kind of believe that. You're like, you know what? I don't think she ever learned how to drive.
Girl.
But yeah, it's so good. The way they did that intentionally, it really felt like the sequences in the 101 Dalmatians when she was driving. Same style car, same shots, and she's even crouched over on the steering wheel just like it. Oh, I love that. The other one, this is one I love the most though. When she first gets to the school, the camera, when she got accepted in the job, when Jasper, when they worked out they forged her. He's like, he fell down out of the ceiling. He put her application in the approved spot. He went back.
I love that.
So funny. He's like, I don't know. She's like, how did you do this? He's like, oh, we worked our mat or whatever he said. We had some contacts or whatever. He dropped it, flew back up. Stuff like that. There was a lot of really quick moments that you didn't need any other context how they got it or anything, just to execute that. It was just funny. I laughed a lot in this movie. But then she had her first day there, and it showed her the camera move in,
right,
showing the layout, went down into the skylight, then all the way through the corridors and everything down to where she is going to end up doing her toilet scrubbing and all that stuff. But like, you got a big feel and a layout for what this place is like, but it was like diving into her world, To me, it kind of felt like I just watched Anastasia. We didn't do personal studies today, but I just watched Anastasia, and there's that the whole opening sequence where Grandma's telling the story, right?
Yeah.
Of Anastasia with memory loss and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the big reveal of the city, and then it like it doesn't like have a long camera movement, but it's like the big reveal, and now we're going to jump into our story in St. Petersburg and jump into the peasants on the street where the story begins. That's how this felt, because the montage, or not the montage, but the background story for Cruella, I'm sorry, I felt it was way too long. I was just like, all this stuff when she was a little girl, the build up to get to the story of her mom dying and everything, and then the running through the streets with Jasper and Horace where she first met them, and then their first few jobs that they did together and everything. I enjoyed all of it, but it could have been trimmed down quite a bit. And you don't think so? It reminds me of Megamind. When you watch Megamind, you have his whole introduction, his whole childhood, who he is, where he came from, what his MO is and everything, leading up to him being in jail, setting up for the story. But it's done and I'm not saying it needed to be just a couple of minutes, but it was like 20 minutes, it felt like. I thought that could have been chopped way down. But that's where you dove into the story with that big camera shot, which I loved. That's it for cinematography, other than just really cool shots of the eloquent, or elaborate's the word, costumes and everything. Really neat. Okay, do you have something to say about the background?
No, I liked the background. I didn't think it was too long either. And like I had
You didn't think it's too long?
No, I felt like it. No, it was great. Like I sat down, I watched the movie, and yeah, it was a long movie. It was like 2 hours and
220 or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a long movie, but didn't feel like it was a long movie when I was watching it. Like it, it took you with it and it was enjoyable. Like I didn't mind it at all.
I kind of did.
Even my daughter, I had my daughter watch it. She sat on the couch the whole time. She got lost a few times, but she didn't even think it was super long. Yeah,
Well, and that's the thing. On the way home, I was talking to my friend and her kids, and we were asking them about their favorite parts, and they were telling me like their favorite parts, and I was asking them their favorite costumes and stuff like that. And then they were like the one she wore at the party. I was like, there's so many arrivals and parties in this movie. You kind of lost track. Like there was a lot of scenes in this movie, a lot of short scenes. Actually, they weren't short. There was a lot of normal length scenes, but there were so many of them because the story was way too bloated. That's my only criticism. I felt is bloated. When she first came in and you're watching the childhood, like the dog chase at the party just before her mom dies, like that was like a couple minutes. And then the running around with the cops in the streets and stuff, I was like, that could be just a couple of shots. You don't need to show all of that, the choreography of the chase sequence and stuff. Like this is not the story.
I feel that the dog chasing sequence when she was 11, right? Or 12, however old she was. She was 11 or 12. Yeah. I feel that, like, honestly, it needed to be that long because you had to have the feeling that the dogs were chasing her.
They were, but you really needed her to be. They were too chasing her until she.
They were chasing her in the beginning, but then they stopped.
But you could have had that transition. You could have that transition without the part where she's running on the table, jumps on the swing goes up, the dogs overrun, and then they come back sliding on the ground, running in and out of the legs of the other guests and everything. I'm like, what's going on here?
It was important.
It was important.
It was very important. It needed to happen. It needed to get on.
How about later on when she leaves? I can't remember which party it was when she left for the fountain scene, which was awesome. They showed her get on that motorcycle and ride all the way through the city, and like the motorcycle ride to the fountain took just as long as the actual scene at the fountain with that beautiful speech. Like, cut this stuff down. You don't need to show every moment of every situation that they were going through. You disagree with that too?
It's like if you just cut little slivers here and there, they would have.
That's
only
editing.
No, I know, but it wouldn't have like made it like I don't know. It wouldn't have made the significant difference. I don't mind. Like usually there are movies where I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, like this could have been cut, this could have been cut, this could have been cut. But I didn't feel that with this movie at all. Because it was quick and it was everything. Even though
maybe it's because you were lounging out at home. Did you have to pause it to explain things with your daughter and stuff, or you just kept running through it?
We just kept running through it.
Okay.
Yeah, the only time we I think we paused it once because my son like dumped a bag of chips in the pantry.
All right, that's fine. Well, it's funny. I wish I could have paused it for a moment because there was a point when I dropped my pencil in the theater, and the theater's on an incline.
Oh my gosh!
It starts rolling down. I'm like, oh no! So I like jump on the ground in the dark, and I'm reaching for it, and it's a black pencil, and it's like rolling down, and I like reach almost underneath the guy in front of me's chair, and as I pull it, I lean up, and it's like a black chair in a dark theater, and I'm like on the ground, and I bump his chair, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, and I sit back down, and he's just like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I couldn't sit there and say, hi, I'm a movie critic, I'm just taking notes. So I'm just like, sorry. I sit back down. He's like, and there's a lot of space between my seat and his seat because they're like big reclining chairs, you know? I'm sure he's like, what is he doing that his head was anywhere near my chair? Anyway, it was embarrassing, but I apologized to him after again, but it was fine. Anyway, I wish I could have paused it. I have no idea what happened in that sequence. And I don't know I guess you were at home. I had a problem with the sound. During her, again, feeling like I didn't miss much when I left the room to go ask the attendees to turn up the volume or check on the volume because I couldn't hear any dialogue. We were like 2/3 the way back. I couldn't hear any of the dialogue. And Emma Stone, for the first 20 minutes, is doing a narration over the sequences because she doesn't even come into the story for 20 minutes because that's how long her background story is. Again, should have chopped it up. But I felt like I was listening to her go on and on and on and on. So I had to go have them check the sound because you couldn't hear the dialogue over the music for that first little bit. It was better later.
Well, I probably would have thought it was boring beginning if I couldn't hear anything either. So that's
that wasn't, yeah, whatever. That, I guess you could make that argument that if I couldn't really hear it, and it was annoying, maybe I was excessively frustrated and overly sensitive about it.
If you were in a happy place, you would agree with me.
Yeah. I had to lean over to other people. I was like, can you not hear it either? And I finally went out, and then they must have come and checked it, and because I could hear it better after a little bit. But yeah, it was like just the sound and no dialogue. It was really bad. It was awful. All right. Enough about that. I think the length was pretty bad. But before we talk about characters, which is what my main thing I want to talk about, I do want to kind of go through the plot a little bit. Some of my favorite sequences. Excuse me. Don't laugh at me. I'm clearing my throat. Okay. So
honey and lemon, Tim.
I don't. It's not that issue. My throat's not swollen. And yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Just don't say have some tea. All right. So I like the stuff at the school. I like the idea.
Right.
Once she gets into the school, that she's kind of making a name for herself. Before this split of her personality where she's like, and I love that the scene when she's talking to Horace and Jasper where she comes up like, I know someone that can help or whatever it was. And then she's like, I'm like, oh, now she's going to become Cruella because that was her alter ego, right? And this other stuff when she was her crime ring, she was establishing. So it's like it reminds me of Oscar. The movie Oscar with Sylvester Stallone, where he's a gangster. He tries to go clean for a while. He's like, sorry, this is who I am. Sorry, Pops. And he goes back at the end of the movie back to being a gangster. He's like, this is what I do. I'm sorry. I tried. That's how it felt in this. Like, she was like kind of Cruella. And then she tried to be whatever her name was, Anastasia or whatever. Stella. And then in the end, she's like, screw it. I'm going to be... Cruella, that's who I am, and she in that awesome speech, But then that moment where she when it dawned on her who she really is, and then she was like, I need a disguise to go to the party. That party sequence when you thought this is where she's going to get she didn't want to do anything wrong, even be dishonest as Estelle Getty. She wanted to go in and do everything clean until Cruella stepped in. Cruella had to be the alter ego to show up the Baroness, right? So that first time when she showed up, although I hated this moment, when she showed up and she had the white dress and she grabbed the guy's match and she dropped it and it just engulfed in flames, and they show this crap in the trailer. And then suddenly she's in the red dress, and it was such a statement because everyone just wears red and black because the Baroness is the only one that can have any other color to have any other attention, and it was just to show her up. And the makeup was all gorgeous, and I think this was my favorite costume. If this was the scene, I think it was this scene where she had like her what is it called? What is it called? Not eyeliner, but what is it when you put it above your mascara, right? Yeah. Above your eyeliner right here. But she had like a streak of white. It wasn't white. It was just no makeup between. So she had eyeliner, mascara, streak, mascara, eyebrows. Does that make sense? So she had like this horizontal design.
Eyeliner. So mascara is what goes on your lashes.
All right.
And mine, yeah. Sorry.
And then what?
So yeah, so she had like a it's just how you kind of like do it. So like she had her eyeshadow liner and everything.
Eyeshadow. That's it. Yes. But it was super cool. I love
her makeup was phenomenal. Her makeup was great.
And her hair was always different. And I love the party at the end where she invited everyone else to dress up as Cruella, and then her hair was just like she just like kind of had it tucked a little bit where it wasn't as extravagant as it had been in other scenes of the movie. She let everyone else have the big hair, and she just kind of kept it kind of cool and stylish, not unlike my own. Anyway, I love that. I was just like, oh, I love her makeup right here. But I love that scene where she bombs in there, all this confidence. And you remember the three things that she said. that she was going to tear down. I typed it. I wrote it down. She said, I want to take away her business. Where is it? Where is it? I just typed it up. Her business, her... Do you not remember either? Where did I put my
I don't
notes?
remember like verbatim. But I remember her.
Well, I do. Oh, right here. Business, her status, and her confidence.
Yeah.
That's what I love about that first meeting was she was like, Cruella is all confidence. She had no business or status. That's what she got by the end of the film, obviously. But the moment when she goes up, and I didn't like where she was like martial arts fighting off the guards who were trying to grapple her.
Martial arts.
Whatever. It was just dumb, really cheesy combat, movie combat. I was like, why is she a street fighter? How does she know how to like maneuver around and beat these guys? And they like go down and take one tumble and then they're out of the fight. Like they're not going to grapple her. You don't think the Baroness is going to like punish them severely for failing to grab a girl and drag her out? No offense, but drag her out of the party. I'm like, there was like 4 guards there, and she has this big security team that's running through the hallways chasing the rat dog costume, which was hilarious, by the way. And the exterminator sequence was so funny. But like all that stuff, and then she beats up like 2 or 3 guys in the ballroom, and then that's it. And she's like, I'm gonna have a talk with her. What?
She didn't beat them up. She like injured them with her cane, and she admitted, she's like, there's 7 of you and 1 of me, but like 3 of you are gonna get seriously injured before I go down. She's like, who do you want those people to, like, who of the 3 is it gonna be? You know, like she like put that little line out there.
All right, I need to watch that part again for the line, but it's still 7 guys can't grab her and get her out. Again, the punishment from Baroness for failure for someone showing her up in her own party was going to be severe. I don't think they would fear Cruella more than the Baroness. So that's the one part I was like, this is dumb. She should have just...
The Baroness was interested. Like, she didn't have them, like...
After the fight. Then
no,
she's...
even then, because she was just like, like, she was curious. And so she didn't call them on, because when you saw like the past sequences of people being attacked because they didn't follow the rules, it was instantaneously, and it was one guard just like freaking like dogpiling them or whatever, getting them out. And then, but like this one, she's like, okay, she made a point. I'm interested, like I'm curious, and then she like let it continue because and after the like beating up, or not beating up, because it wasn't beating up, but she like
beat up.
It was not beating up. She like hit people with her cane and whatever. The Baroness didn't like stick on, you know. It was just kind of like she's like, okay, I'm curious. Come talk to me, you know. Like she was intrigued. How
they got there was dumb, but then they got there for the first confrontation. You can approve. I thought it was dumb.
And I'm right.
Okay.
I am right.
All right. Because you're like, I am a woman. I go to the gym every morning, and I can beat up 3 bodyguards. All right. But here comes my favorite scene. I think this was my favorite scene. When they sit down on the couch while the party resumes, and then she's sitting there, Cruella, having her first confrontation with the Baroness. And the dialogue, I can't remember a single word of it. But I was like, this is like Jack Sparrow in his first movie. Quality dialogue, the twisting of the words, and how British. I loved how sharp and pronounced Emma Stone did her British accent, and it kept reminding me of someone, and I could not figure. All night I was sitting there like, who does that remind me of? She was like nailing this accent, and it was so beautiful and sharp, and just her words were just so well enunciated, and just very clear, very well pronounced, everything she said, and but it's very this confident, superior. British actor or character with another superior British actress, and they're just trying to out British each other, and it was so out sophisticate in the dialogue and complicate their sentences. That sequence and their exchange of words right there is like in my top 5 villain hero, I guess anti-hero, whatever, confrontations ever. I thought it was so well done. Can't remember a word of it, but it was so cool to listen to. As it kept cutting to the chase sequences and stuff, which sucked because the whole point of that party was the heist to get the necklace, and she was wearing the necklace. And you're like, oh, So you knew it was all for naught, and she knew it was all for naught, but she still had to accomplish something in this party, and so it was going to be the confrontation, hoping her boys could get out. Also, she was very confident in her pickpocketing sleight of hand skills that she'd be able to snag it, which she did. Threw it to the dog, and the dog ran out and then ended up getting picked up by the Dalmatian and swallowed by the Dalmatian. Here's where we get into Disney goofy writing, but whatever, I'll let it slide in a movie about dogs. But I love that scene. I love everything about it. And then that led into the awesome montage of the showing up with the newspapers and everything of her bombing in and making a name for herself and sneaking off. My only problem with that, Ashley, where were the police that whole time? She kept showing up at these parties. Everyone knew to be expected, and the journalists were even like waiting for Cruella. Why were the police not there? Because, and you're like, well, she wasn't breaking any laws. I know you didn't say that, but I'm putting words in your mouth. But they had in the dialogue in that montage, someone said the police have no clues on who she is or whatever. And when she's like burning like and putting that neon paint and stuff on the side of the building and stuff, like clearly she was breaking some laws and trespassing, if nothing else. They even said that. But why were the police not there when she would bomb in and lock the Baroness in her car to make a strut down the red carpet just to turn and run away? You would think they would have caught a pattern because this did go on for a period of time. It takes a while to plan these parties. You know what I mean? Any response to that or bad writing?
I don't think it's bad writing. I think it was because media kind of like rules everything, and people wanted something in media to pay attention to.
So you think the cops were just like, let it go. Let's see, because this is their...
No one was filing complaints or whatever. You know, the
Baroness would have been.
But she wasn't. Like, she respected, like, she was annoyed, but she respected what was going on, and she admits that later on in the movie.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, she wasn't filing complaints or anything, and people were, like, excited to have something new. Like, so there was no reason for the police to come. Like, yeah, they were curious, but there was no reason for them to stop anything.
Right. All right. It was fine. It didn't bother me. I was just thinking like halfway through, halfway through the second half of the movie, which would be 3/4 of the movie if you're doing your math. But I was like, where are the police during all this? You know? Anyway, it didn't matter. So then it led into the heist, the second attempted heist, and then the fire. What did you think about that whole little thing where she was presumed dead and all that stuff? Were you on board this whole time? Is there anything you had a problem with the movie, Ashley? Did you just love everything? You're just an apologist for all this writing?
I will say I'm trying to remember what point in the movie that I thought about this. I'm trying to think. I want to say it was when she got the job with the Baroness. Like, she got drunk and she made like the window display, and then the next morning Baroness came. So that's when the Baroness first showed up. Right. I think it was like around that point that I was like, okay, I'm calling this now. I feel that the Baroness is her grandmother, and the mom went to her to ask for money because of their situation, right? And the grandma... That's what my friend said. That's what your friend said? She went over and said the exact same thing at the beginning of the movie, and then the twist was that she was the actual mother. And you're like, what? Yeah, but she said the exact same thing. Because you couldn't see her hair. That was her big clue. You never could see her hair. You're like, I bet she has the black and white hair. She just always has it covered. And I was like, no, in the one party she had it, but it was like, it could have been dyed. But she made the comment, or the first time she saw Cruella, she's like, did you notice her hair? But they never revealed that. The Baroness never had colored hair, right? No, and even then when it showed the Baroness as a young person, she didn't have the salt pepper hair. That would have been cool to do. I don't know why. I wonder if that was in a draft of the script at some point. Then they just bailed on it. But she made that point. She was like, did you notice the hair? Yeah, because the baby was born with a full head of hair. Like, when you saw when you saw the baby being taken away, she had the salt pepper hair. Well, that line does work. Yeah. She just still didn't know it was her daughter. Right. Okay. Anyway. So what? So at that point, what's your problem? No, wait, what? Oh, I
You
didn't have a problem. Yeah, I was like, I didn't have a problem. I was just thinking,
well, you said
oh,
there was a
that's
point in the
fun.
movie where I thought this, and then I cut you off and distracted you, and we never got to what you thought.
No, I can't remember. I just, but you were saying something like the fire. I was like, I thought the fire scene was like, it fit for the character of the Baroness because, of her personality. It kind of, she's like, okay, I've had enough. I'm done with this. You know what I mean? I've had fun. But I'm done. And like she just gets things done.
I
And
just,
her twisted,
I just thought it was weird that out of nowhere, the Jasper and Norris were there in the open, working with her the whole time, and then all of a sudden, oh, now we're just gonna follow them home. And I was like, what? That was weird. And then just cut to them showing up in their little loft. But it was fine. I didn't hate it. I thought it worked really well leading into the final act, which, at this point in the movie, you're like, oh, when's it going to end? Like, I'm so bored, but like, how many setups are we going to have? How many more parties are in this movie, to get through? Right. But like, then they set up for the Cruella party, the last one. And the whole thing with the death, and the whole thing where they're like, we never found her, or we didn't see her, and if the Baroness was like very uppity about if she died or not. I thought that was really cool because she's the only one that was like hyped up. And then you had the bald guy, that was a twist. I thought that was going to be her dad, but then you had the bald servant who was like, I knew who you were, and he was all that loyalty to her father, that he was the good man, and I tried to save you because you were the reason he died, is what it kind of implied. He kind of wasted away, he said, after the baby was killed.
Well, yeah, because it's like, he died of, like, in essence, like, it died of a broken heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He lost his child. Sad.
It's fine. And that's a common Disney thing. Like that's the Cinderella story. That's the Snow White story. That's apparently the Cruella story, that you're like, evil mom and the failed fallen father, right? And as a mother, I'm sure you can relate with evil mothers.
Oh my gosh. I'm nice.
Yeah. Warn your daughter. Don't. Are you watching with Aurora? Oh no. Anyway, okay. Led into that, the setup at the very end, finishing off the plot with her stealing the whistle, poking her. That was earlier when she poked her with the pin. I thought that was kind of cool. But stealing the whistle, calling the dogs, getting the full revenge to the point of, I loved how it was well written. She got her to apologize. She said, I'm sorry. And she said, saying you're sorry is a sign of weakness. Don't apologize. Or no, don't say thank you. What was it?
Yeah, you don't show gratitude.
Yeah. And she kept saying thanks, or she said, don't ever do that. She got her to do that. She got her to give her a hug.
Yeah.
She got her to give a toast. She said, I only toast myself, because why would I toast to anyone else? And she got her to toast to Cruella, right there in front of Cruella. And then she got her to say, I love you. Yeah, right? Yeah. I remember. I was like, oh, this is so brilliant. She got her to do all the things that she said that she wouldn't do. And I was like, and it was well done. It was so well written. Then she came out, and then I thought the dogs were going over the cliff. I really, really, really did. When they were charging her, and then she just suddenly like points down the ground and they stop. I was like, all right, whatever. So the dog stopped.
You wanted the dog to die, Tim. You wanted the dog to
die. No, I thought that was just going to show her ultimate revenge, because she promised. She said, I will kill your dogs. She said they're going to die. She did make that declaration earlier on. I was like, Cruella's not going to back up on her word. Which brings up another problem I have. I mean, not a problem, but this doesn't transition into the movie because she was too much of a dog lover in this film. I don't think that the dogs being a part of her being a part of her crime racket was fully necessary. She could have done just as much with Jasper and Horace without the dog aspect of it, because this movie is for dog fans because they love 101 Dalmatians, right? I think that's the only reason they wrote that in. But she was very dependent and loyal, and those dogs coming while she was in the fire trying to save her, I thought they were going to save her. I was like, she is too much of a dog lover to be the same character in the new movies where she's this horrible murderer. What?
But did you notice at the end in the credits where she gifts Anita a Dalmatian?
The puppies.
Which are the dogs from 101. Okay,
Yes.
hear me out. So Roger and Anita hadn't met yet,
Yes.
right? When Roger got fired by the Baroness, she had her little narrative like overplay that he always blamed Cruella for losing his job, which is why he never liked her, right? Okay. He never liked her because he was bitter because of her doing that, right?
Right.
But she was trying to make amends by giving like Pongo. And okay, but here we go. But here in the very end, in the beginning, okay, so you have this time that passes, right? So she has this idea and she asks Anita, and this is 101 Dalmatians, she asks Anita, you know, that she'll buy the dogs from them, and then Roger's like, no, like we're not selling, they're not yours, you know, whatever. And she, like, that's where she snapped. Like, she was already unhinged and she snaps there, okay? And that's where this actual everything came tumbling down, because she just needed that one little straw to break the camel's back, to lose everything and become the crazy, like, dog killer, kidnapping person that she was.
That's him saying no to selling. You're saying she was totally hinged until the the petition to sell the dogs in the beginning of 101 Dalmatians. Then she snapped and became crazy.
No, I'm not saying she wasn't crazy. I'm saying it pushed her over the edge to the point where she no longer cared about dogs, because she was more important to care about her being the what? No, not even about the coat. It was more important to prove, like, how dare you disrespect me, you know, where that kind of thing to Roger, and that kind of snapped her to where she's like, what can I do? It just became about, you know, getting back at Roger for taking her friend and not selling the dogs and everything else. And like, because she was already unhinged. But it just pushed her to the point where she no longer cared about her affection for dogs.
Right. Which one of my quotes where she admits that?
Right.
It was so funny. When he was talking about the difference between Cruella and Annabelle, whatever her name is, Jasper says this. He says, she's a homicidal maniac and you're not. And Cruella's like, we don't know that yet. I'm still young. Okay, fine. That's fine. I understand that there's a gap between the end of this movie and where 101 Dalmatians would pick up. But here's my problem with that, Ashley. And I thought about this immediately when that scene happened. I was like, this can't lead into 101 Dalmatians because she's a different character. In 101 Dalmatians, you have a desperate lady with money who she even says, I watched the beginning of 101 Dalmatians like the next 2 nights. I kept trying to watch it. I kept falling asleep. But she was, I wanted to watch it. I'm still going to. But she's like, I love coats. I live for furs. That's right. That's all she was about was furs. This character in this movie was all about fashion. She was a stylist and she wanted the fashion empire to rise up and have her stuff known. And having this opportunity and a platform to work with the Baroness was a really big deal that she cared about when she was going to the school. And to work as one of her designers and then being her assistant and her friend and everything, and being invited out to lunch and getting approved when everyone else was being shut down. That was everything. That motive got this character through this movie to be this Baroness over this empire, this fashion design, the business, and the status that she was fighting for. To go on and need a coat and be like, I live for furs. No, that's not this character.
It is this character. It is. So, okay. So fashion changes. Like, I'm not like some fashion diva or whatever. I wear workout clothes like all the time.
Clearly I am.
Absolutely. But like, it moves and progresses so quickly, nonstop, like all the time, right? And it got to the point, like, so even you look at Coco Chanel, right? Who was like,
I don't. Go ahead.
Oh my god, so she was amazing. I read her biography. Horrible human being. But the woman was insanely talented, and just even how she progressed and moved things forward and all this kind of stuff. It was insane how quickly and like drastically it was. So it's very, very, actually it makes sense that she could be from like what we're seeing in this movie Cruella, it's all about fashion, to then she finally gets in that world, and then you become obsessed with certain things, and
She found
furs.
her favorite niche in the fashion world was furs.
It's just that was like the eye-catching piece, in essence, for her. And it was a thing. Like furs were like a huge thing in the late 70s,
And
which and 80s. It was huge. It was huge. PETA became all big because of the furs, and that it was like this huge thing in fashion. You know what I mean? But it's it makes sense, like how one would transition into that. It makes sense.
But she literally, and she made the comment. She looked at the dogs earlier in the movie, and she's like, "You guys would make a really nice coat, right?" Now let me ask you: did you think she killed the dogs for the coat, or did you think it was just a print?
When the Baroness said she killed my dog to make a coat, I looked at it and I was like, bravo. And I was like, I didn't believe it, but I was like, good for her.
Revenge, right?
Yeah, I was like, good for her, making she did what she wanted to do and making the Baroness think.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. Again, I thought about this immediately as the credits were going. She owned the 3 Dalmatians. 2 of the Dalmatians made another Dalmatian. Two other Dalmatians, probably part of a litter, right? She gave Pongo to one. Ew, that means that they were siblings. Pongo and Mongo, or whatever her name, Benita, or whatever it was. Whoever the other dogs. That means they were siblings.
No, they weren't. No. Were those puppies, of the 3 puppies?
That's what I thought. She said, here's a gift. So. Love, Cruella. Where else would she get Dalmatians from? Why would she buy them Dalmatians?
She buy them from a breeder. She was just trying to keep it the thing. She
that became her theme.
It became her thing. That was the one thing. She took everything. She took everything from the Baroness.
Yes.
She took everything, and she included her obsession with those dogs.
Okay. She kept the dogs, and they were her pets. And then suddenly she delivers or what's his name? Roger and whatever her name was.
Anita. Roger and Anita.
She delivered them puppies that they were going to grow up into dogs, get together, inbreed apparently, and then have more puppies. Now, however, whatever resources that Cruella had to generate pure breed Dalmatian puppies to send to her ex-employees or whatever, she obviously should have kept them to keep breeding if she was so obsessed with this Dalmatian fashion that she wanted to make a coat. Yes.
But she wasn't there yet.
Okay, so you're saying she was pulling her hair out, oh, I let them slip through my fingers. I gave them away as pets. Now I'm gonna go try and buy them back, and or buy the puppies back.
No. So okay, you really want me to go on this train? Because I will go on this train. Here we go. So Roger and Anita fell in love. She had this crazy. She had this attachment to Anita because Anita was the only person ever nice to her.
Yes. She was a huge part of the whole story. Yes, the journalist.
So she has this connection to Anita, and Roger doesn't like Cruella, but she keeps trying to be helpful. They didn't have Roger and Anita didn't have a lot of money because he couldn't. He wasn't making money as a lawyer, and he wasn't making money as a jingle artist or whatever. And so she's like, what can I do to help my friend? Oh, I know. I'm going to buy these puppies from them. They're going to get a pretty penny, and it's going to be everything. And that's another reason why it was so insulting that Roger refused to sell. It's kind of these hidden charity, type of moments or whatever,
It's like I sell you a dresser, or I give you a dresser as a gift, and then it turns out that the handle and the knobs on the dresser are worth a lot of money. I'm like, you should sell those back. You're like, no, you gave us a dresser, and I'm like, well, F that. I'm gonna come steal the dresser then. I think it's a plot hole, but whatever. All I'm saying is that character and that setup does not translate directly into the cartoon for me. If anyone else if you're going to bend it, be like she went more unhinged for the next couple of months as the puppies grew up and met in the park and all that stuff, that's fine. You can go watch the cartoon. But that's the other thing. Let's talk about Cruella for a second. In the cartoon, Cruella was not this big Baroness lord in Europe, right? She didn't have this title. She was just some wealthy, kind of trampy character. and I was like, maybe it's just the way she was drawn. But then when I watched the first 20 minutes, it shows her after the puppies are stolen in her own house in her bed, and she has like her stockings are flung on the bed, and she has like one of her shoes is up on the lampshade and stuff like that. And like, this is a wealthy Miss Hannigan from Annie. That's what I thought. I was like, this. She was not classy and sophisticated and like royalty. She was just a wealthy, kind of a trampy character. Not trampy, is like nothing sexual, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But the thing is, like, look how she was raised. She grew up with two, like,
on the streets. Okay.
Yeah, you know, and she never had the class. I mean, she ate a banana off her face that came out of the trash. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like,
Okay. I'll give you that.
Yeah, like she didn't have the etiquette. She didn't have the class. She didn't know anything. So here it is. She stole everything from the Baroness, and all she has in her mind of what life is like is this trashy existence.
Casual.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
All right, I'll accept that. You can have that point, Ashley, but the other plot holes I mentioned are still valid. So you're saying, in your interpretation, Cruella in the cartoon was this Baroness with this estate, but she didn't, or she just like that's how she lived from what little we saw in 101 Dalmatians. Okay, I'll go with that. However, I do draw a line in her relationship with Jasper and Horace. And here's my thing about Jasper and Horace. Jasper was more like a live-action cartoon character. No, sorry, Horace. Horace was like a live-action cartoon thug, right? Jasper had a lot more scenes where they established him as her friend. Now, what I don't like about that, I mean, I love that. I love that for this movie. I wish both of them were established as her friend, but it's fine. You can have one that's like a little closer. He was more of the thinker, and Horace was more of the thug. That's fine. It worked out. But like the relationships with her and Jasper, and they had a couple of scenes, including one on the balcony towards the end where he was like, "I miss her," or whatever. You know, Anastasia, whatever her name was, right? But they had that moment where you're like, "Oh, they're friends here." And they had all that loyalty. She got him out of jail and all that stuff, but they were there for her, and they saved her life and everything, and like, or whatever. If I remember, there's a couple scenes like that. But they like were there, right there, loyal and friends. And you showed that transition through their heists and their jobs, that like she became more of a boss than like a colleague in their crime syndicate. But he had that scene where he was like, "I miss the closeness and the respect." And Horace and Jasper at each other like, when did she just start knocking over my cereal and stuff like that? When did she become like that? When did it not become, we are making plans, so like, here's our instructions, you know? Right. I enjoyed that, but like, it really, really, really sucks to go from that relationship of that friendship with her to the next movie where they're both minimal thugs who are imbeciles and everything. You're like, well, that's horrible. You know, and that's like, I don't want to see this Emma Stone Cruella character erase all of that loyalty and just become this superior B in the next movie. You know what I'm saying?
It makes sense, though. It does.
I don't like that. That's why I don't want there to be a sequel to this movie. All those scenes, it's going to be a dark movie.
Yeah, no, it's like, I was really sad, like, because like the connection that she and Jasper had, especially,
it's beautiful.
Like, watching it, yeah, and it was like dissolving, and it was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
and it's like you could see his heartbreak, you know, and not that he was like in love with her. I don't think that he was ever like in love with her.
No.
Like just that connection of like, you know, like a sister, you know.
Yeah,
and it, like,
he carried them. They were like nothing, and then she was the brain, and she was their, you know, she was in their in their league with each other, where she's the one that was the brains of all their stuff, but they were the resources. They had good skills on the street. They had done something as pickpockets. But when the three of them worked together, they could do so much. Look what they accomplished, you know, where they were professional heists and con men by the time they got to when they went in there. Then you take them in the 101 Dalmatians and like, we're from the the gas company. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, these are not the same characters. Yeah. Well, and they don't need to be.
It was always like that a little bit, you know, like I don't think Jasper, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen 100.
Jasper went in as the exterminator. He was the one that was doing the con jobs. Horace, the fat guy, he was the one that was in there doing the smart stuff with the rat. Jasper was in there watching the cameras. He was like the tech guy. So Horace
was able to do it. It never like thought of Jasper, even in the cartoon. I never thought of him as like the dumb
The brains.
Yeah, he was more smart out of like both of them.
Yeah, but not much.
I mean,
I
can't
do.
remember. Yeah, I can't remember.
I did like the scene how they showed Horace watching TV off to the side. That was so cool. I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't know what they watched. I remember the Dalmatians, because I just watched it. The Dalmatians watched that sheriff dog cartoon or whatever that they were watching. I don't know what Horace was watching later on when they were dog napping. But I'm like, I remembered him watching TV. I'm like, that is so cool that you can hear the echo, the quieted TV in the other room. That's where Horace's attention was while Jasper and Cruella were having their conversations. I was like, that's cool. That's a nice little touch. There was a couple of little things like that I like the car and stuff like that. But that's Jasper. But he was just too thug. Where he was, I laughed when he was crying at the funeral.
Oh, yeah.
I remember he said it. And I walk out, Jasper's like, what are you doing? Anyway, that was hilarious when he was crying at the funeral and she was right there. But yeah, the relationship with Jasper, I don't think I have much more on Horace and Jasper, but it's just, I felt bad. I don't like, again, if they made a sequel, it would have to be something to bridge going into 101 Dalmatians, and it would just be a devastating thing to watch that relationship falter, or else they're changing the cartoon if they have a different result, which again means you can't take this and go into 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah, I feel there's enough that you can bridge it together without a sequel, so let's just hope they don't do a sequel.
I agree. But I think they will. It depends on how good it does. We'll see what the numbers look like on. Well, I guess we already did. I'm sure Memorial Days. I didn't look it up. I stopped following numbers with COVID. I should start doing that again as theaters are opening up. Cruella was awesome. Let's just talk about her and then the Baroness real quick. But Cruella was like, I really liked the transition between the two personalities. It was very well done. You could see it. She was a different person, where she was like schizophrenic, where she was really playing both parts. Emma Stone did phenomenal. I would say this is up there just as good, which is a big thing for me to say, as Angelina Jolie in Maleficent. That's the only thing I really loved about that movie, was her performance, and how Angelina Jolie, she could tell so much emotion and so much story and internal dialogue just from an expression. She was so perfect in it. Emma Stone in this one, when she first got that job, or when she was being all coy and condescending, when she was doing all the setups, like the moths and the thing, and when she was like, oh, I'm just making this dress, all that stuff. Like, she had all this conniving stuff hidden behind her glasses, and that countenance of just like of respect. I'm just a loyal servant, but she wasn't. You can see all the wheels turning in her head all the time, and the sneaky smirks and everything were just beautiful. She did such a good job. Just as good as Angelina. I'm not a big Angelina fan, but that performance was great. I like that. I really liked the diabolical nature of Cruella. I thought it was really cool. And then the sensitive side, you really did see that, especially in the speech at the end. Can't say enough about it. How she, at the end, she said, "But I do love you." She respected her half mother, her fake mother, she called her at one point. Yeah. But there was some loyalty there when she first found out who the Baroness was. I don't remember which scene it was. I remember that scene though, where she was like, "Oh, you killed," or the lady came with asking for money for her kid, and then the Baroness says like she only had one kid to take care of and she failed, and then Cruella's like, "Oh, F you," you know what I mean? It was just so moving. Oh, so good. But you can't say enough. The costumes, everything were just really great. I loved everything about Emma Stone's performance and the character. Very well written. Very good script in this movie. Problems with editing. Problems with some of the dialogue scenes were very repetitious, but it was a great script. But the Baroness, I didn't know who she was. I don't know who Emma Thompson was. I had to look her up later. And I was sitting there like, is this what's her name? Angelica Houston? This sounds like Morticia. That's Angelica Houston, right? Yeah. I was just like, it almost seemed like her, but it wasn't. I mean, obviously it wasn't. But I was like, she was very on par with older Angelica Houston from her recent roles, like in Daddy Daycare, right? But She wasn't at all. She was her own character, and I really enjoyed the performance. I loved the little things that she did to show how insensitive she was when she's just talking in the car and like eating or drinking, whatever it was.
Yeah.
She just throws a cup outside the window and just keeps driving. She's walking around with her knife and just like cutting up everyone's outfits and stuff. And she like nicks, like swipes right through the episode. And she's like bleeding all over the dress. And she's like, doesn't even care. But she's like, oh, I like this. After she like trims it all up, she's like, this is my best design. And she just takes the credit for everything. All those little moments, there was a bunch of them. Every scene with her, it was just something else. It was just brilliant with her. How condescending and flawless she was.
Yeah.
I love that, which is fun watching and well written. Again, the relationship between Cruella or Annabelle, what is her name? Estella and the Baroness. Her slowly developing that trust and that friendship. Not friendship, but like she was a colleague. She was almost like a talented equal. Or not equal. But she was like, I respect your skills. I'm taking your patterns. When she found out about the sketchbook that she was doing in the alley, she was pissed. She was like, oh, I found a new line, you know. I love all that. And she found her spring line and lined it all up. I just love it. I think she did such a good job that you were like, you wanted her demise at the end of the movie. Not her death. I wasn't like, I don't want her to die. I didn't want her to get pushed off. But that moment when she pushed Cruella, I was like, oh my gosh. And they're all right there, and they all move in, and she's like trying to lie her way out of it. I was like, this is brilliant. This is a brilliant story, brilliant script. Yeah. But did you have anything about the Baroness that you loved?
No, I can't believe that you didn't know who Emma Thompson was. She's like one of my favorite actresses.
All right, well.
She's like, oh.
You're offended. Oh well. You'll get over it. There's a lot of, I'm bad with actor names. I really am. Overall, I really do love it. I can give it my mild rating real quick. Let's see. Story. Oh shoot. Let's do it. I'm gonna do it just for fun right now. So story. With my categories, 1 out of 2. I'll give it my wild rating or whatever. Story, I'm gonna give it a 2 because I'm at 1.5. 1.5 out of 2. 1 means it was just, it did the job. 1.5 is like it did a really good job. 2 is like flawless home run. But 1.5 because it was bloated and I think it could have been cleaned up. Sound, the music and soundtrack, that's a 1 point. That's a 2. I'll give it a 2. Characters, that's absolutely a 2 for this movie, not as a sequel. Cinematography, I'll give it a 2.
1.75.
I'll give it a 2. I don't think there was anything, not 5, a 2. I don't think there was anything lacking. Special effects and sound and all that stuff. That's the other part. The fire, all the visuals and everything with the montages and everything. I thought that was all beautiful. And it was all well done, all that stuff. Even, except for, I didn't really like the little rock concert they did at the end. It felt like Revenge of the Nerds. Remember Revenge of the Nerds, how they're having the booze, and then all they're doing their skits, and all of a sudden there's like this light show coming off in the parking lot, and everyone all masses around it to watch it, and they drew all the attention away from the jocks. That's immediately what I felt like. I'm like, this is Revenge of the Nerds, and they're about to sing a song. And then they sang this weird rock song, and I was like, okay, this doesn't work. So that's why in the story is 1.5. Some of the stuff I didn't think really, really worked. But special effects, the dogs, they didn't seem like CGI dogs, but you know they were CGI dogs. I give this a 2. I think this movie's great. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. I don't think it's a 9.5. I'm going to give cinematography a 1.5. Because, no, not cinematography. Oh, you know what? Sound. Sorry. I'm saying that there was something messed up in the sound. I don't think it was just my theater.
That was in the
I don't know. I don't know. I'll see. Maybe I'll change it. I think it was about a 9 though. I don't think it was a 9.5. Was that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Yeah, 9. A 9 out of 10. Because some of those were like barely 2s. I was very generous with 2s. So there's my wild ratings. Anyway, Ashley, do you have any other thoughts? Any other counter arguments for all the problems I had with it?
No, just that I'm right and wrong.
All right. Well, I'm glad you could represent Josh here because that's exactly what he would have said. Anyway, again, Celestial rating. If you haven't seen it in the theater, I think it's worth seeing in the theater. Take other people who haven't seen it, encourage them to go see it in the theater. If you watch this, I'm assuming you already saw it in the theater, or saw it. But it was fun. Are you gonna buy it, Ashley, when it comes out?
Yes.
I think I will too. I respect it well enough to get it. I may never watch it again because I buy movies as a collector that I really respect. Ones even if I have no intention of going back to rewatch it, but I will give them my money one more time because I think it was a well done movie and they deserve that money for the next thing they do, unless it's Cruella 2, 101 Dalmatians. That's a good title. All right. Well, Ashley, thanks for joining me in this long discussion. But if you sat through 101 or sat through Cruella and you didn't have a problem with the time of that movie, you should shut your mouth about how long this discussion went. Not nearly as long as that opening narration of her story. Nice. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time on Saints on Cinema. Thanks, guys.